you can share your screen.
All right, great. I hope everyone having a great learning experience with this event that the organizer has put across for 15 hours long like learning sessions with different sort of speakers around the globe. And I think I can only uh, wish you all the best with the learnings. And this next hour I'm going to really talk about the no code solutions to deploy of any of your SharePoint content, and how would you really build sort of SharePoint experience within the Microsoft Teams. I know there are some of the sessions you might have heard about the tabs in the Microsoft Teams which can open up any website, and you are good to use it the SharePoint as a website there and add it to any channel. But this, as Maithili said in the beginning, it's more of delivering the personalizations and actually adding your SharePoint content as an application to a tabs altogether. The second thing that you might see is how would you really take a chatbot experience, the any corporate level websites. Let's say COVID-19 is happening every day. Every world is getting heat of with this virus. So what is that? Maybe you have a corporate communication site that your corporate level communication team manages. How would you deliver that experience as a SharePoint experience within the Microsoft Teams is what you can expect a takeaway from the session. So we're going to really jump into the learning pathways website that Microsoft created for us to, literate the, literate the digital literacy for our employees. At the same time, how do you really add a SharePoint site within few clicks and some clicks, and your site is available within the Microsoft Teams. And the third thing is how would you really create a bot and take this experience to Microsoft Teams, right? Let's just kick off next. As I said, when you look for a modern SharePoint home site, I see a lot of echoes and noise. Maithili, would you mind to mute all of them? All right, great. So what is Microsoft Teams? I think everybody knows it. It like offers a collaborations, a hub work for a Microsoft, sorry, for your Office tools to deliver in one space, or all integrations like Stream, Planner, Office tools together in one place. And what's a scenario that we are really talking about? Adding your corporate landing page, the internet landing page to a Microsoft Teams, and add any single communications and important topics of your company back into the Microsoft Teams. What you see here, basically the this one, right, where you see there's a tabs here where I open a portal. So this is what we are really looking to it next. Be aware about the following considerations. There's no native navigations. You might have a SharePoint. Let me just go back to a SharePoint site. You might see a SharePoint which has a lots of navigations on the top, right? And that navigation is not a part of today's capability, or your headers or your footers right now. Should come in next few months from a Microsoft, but right now it's not available. Only the content of the page can be seen in the Microsoft Teams. Now you can always look for a search, right? Here I can go and write anything, let's say Microsoft or something. So you see all the sites and news coming from a Microsoft 365 fabric of applications, right? Mostly I would say specifically the SharePoint content getting searched from a search box. But here, when you deploy it within your Microsoft Teams, the results varies here. The results would come from a Microsoft Teams perspective, then your SharePoint search perspective here. The third is the target must be a modern SharePoint site. You might be a question from our audience coming, which I expect. Can my classic internet pages be a part of a SharePoint? Sorry, that's Microsoft Teams application. The answer is no. This is all modern. Only modern SharePoint site can be embedded as an application to Microsoft Teams, not a classic one. You cannot create content, news pages, libraries in the Teams. You must create them within the SharePoint space and consume them in a Microsoft Teams. So the content authoring is basically available within the SharePoint space right now. And that's a few of the considerations that I really want to talk about. It might be a questions coming from the audience. So I just really want to make sure before we really go for a demonstration of it. And page comment features is not available as this is exposed to Microsoft Teams. Going further, administrations, you need some sort of administration rights to pin that application to your targeted users from a Microsoft Teams administration center. So for the folks who are most of a developer, please make a note. You also need some sort of settings, configurations in a Microsoft Teams admin center to enable this experience. So what is Microsoft 365 learning pathway? It's basically meant to accelerate your end users training to give your end users a training platform from a Microsoft 365 perspective, and all the tools and applications from Microsoft, you can access it within this portal without you creating the site, without you creating any sort of trainings inside it. You can add your custom trainings in this, like the simple experience, like how you edit any page of a SharePoint. You can always go ahead and edit the site whichever way you want. But this Microsoft 365 learning pathways is basically meant for your Microsoft curated end users training. Let's say when you deploy Microsoft Teams to a company or a SharePoint, they might ask you, hey, what's adoption look like? Where do I ask my users to go and train, right? So this SharePoint site is really meant for those training purposes. And how it comes, I hope everybody know about it. There's a support website from a Microsoft, support.microsoft.com, right? So sorry, not support.microsoft. I'm sorry. This is support.office.com, where you look for across the platform of Microsoft 365 trainings, right? So whatever content you see within these applications, right? If I click through the SharePoint, you see a certain ways of getting trained, getting help in learning, right? This is the experience we are really going to create within a couple of seconds here. So it really says, hey, the support.office.com talk to my GitHub, and then GitHub makes sure that the content is up to date, and it actually sends all the content back to a customer tenant site called the Microsoft 365 Learning Pathway. And it's also available as a web part that you can always add it to a different regions and functional sites like HR department, like marketing department. So you can explicitly take this as a platform, as a web part, and add it into the SharePoint space for them. Now, what is in terms of integration look like? You know, what is really the session is about? So session is about how you session is about how you really pin those specific pages, relevant, content back into the end user experience on a Microsoft Teams. Maybe employee onboarding is a scenario. Maybe expense report is a scenario, right? So those scenarios you can always build the SharePoint space and get it added as an experience, as an app on a Microsoft Teams platform. So what you see here, I see activity, getting started, and chat. So you see get started is something we are really going to make right now in our demo. And to download this, to add this to your content, this content back to your catalog, right, of a SharePoint, you just need to go to, say, Microsoft 365 Learning Pathway Teams app. There's a link here. I can pass on to the chat as well later. So let's just jump into the Learning Pathway demo and also SharePoint Corporate Communication site, right? Let me go back to a SharePoint lookbook. I don't know if how many have known it. If you write here, Microsoft SharePoint lookbook, it actually tells you what you can create today, right? So here you see there's a SharePoint lookbook, and here you can access this page by design perspective. Like think about a scenario where you are asked to create some of the SharePoint sites and pages for a school or a staff of a school, right, or college, right? So this is kind of design layout. Microsoft has put so much efforts to make this available for our end users, and this divided into a different categories. If I'm looking for a community solution, right, what are the community's guidelines? How would I really go about modern build of the SharePoint? What we are looking here is more of a solution called awareness adoption process, or maybe a connect, engage, and inform, right? So I think this in this one, I'm going to go and pick one of the design called training and learning adoption. And that's the side I was talking about before, right? So I'm going to go and hit that add to your tenant. You need a global administrator rights here. As soon as you validate this as a site name, right, site URL, it's typically a process, right, where you really call it like, hey, whether the site is available, the address is available. Let's say I click hit to provision. It says, hey, I think you have already added the same site earlier because I have done this demonstration a while ago, like 1 or 2 days before. So I have already run this validation. And as a result of it, when you confirm, right, it gonna tells me, hey, this site is really going to turn it up in your tenant, and you would get notification from a Microsoft saying that, hey, this site is just created with this URL for you to consume. Let me go back to the new tab and let me refresh it. This is the site that just created for you as a part of the automation. And here I told you, right, the SharePoint help page before in office.com, right? So you supported microsoft.com/SharePoint. The same experience, you can go and access any of these applications, right? I can go and say, my employees are working remotely. What do you have from a Microsoft perspective? How would I Microsoft train them? Do they have any trainings assigned where I can ask my employees who are new to the Microsoft Teams? So this is the end goal of the site, and this can be translated to different languages as well. You can choose what language you want. It's all out of the boxes. Now let's say, for instance, I go here and look for a SharePoint perspective. The SharePoint site content is right available here, and I can always say edit and customize it, right? And this is what Microsoft delivers to you. And you can always go ahead and create your own content, like maybe a link to a Microsoft where I can say, hey, I want to really add an image which can take them to this place, like a URL could be something tomorrow, and just add it. And I say, hey, whatever you are saying, whatever you're delivering at a part of automation, that's fine. We can trust on Microsoft, but I think my employees need some more information. Or maybe you have a vendor which has a lot of trainings done for you before. Just put that URL, put some text, whatever you want, right? Look for more trainings or something, right? And I publish this page. So what I'm really trying to explain you guys, this Microsoft 365 learning pathway, you can accelerate the adoption, you can accelerate the journey of your employees to get trained, right? And this is very important today, to increase this digital literacy among your employees. Okay, enough for a Microsoft 365 learning pathway. Let's jump into the how do you really add this sort of experience back into a Microsoft Teams, as we talked about the integration, right? I'm gonna go and hit here Microsoft Teams app. Doesn't matter whether you are in a web app or a desktop app. You are just gonna go and look for more apps, and right here App Studio, right? And that App Studio is already I have added. That's why it's telling me to open. But when you tried it as a developer, you would get it like add App Studio, right? Let's say I have added, I validate it. What do you do next? You go to the manifest editor and create a new application, right? You can create a bot. As you see, I have done few as a part of the demo. I can go and one create for you here real quick. So the short name is, I just copied few information from here. Mm, all right, make sure you put enough information here, otherwise it doesn't work. So it's gonna be a little problematic for you tomorrow. So I'm gonna say, hey, I'm gonna put something called get started. And the full name is a great learning app for collaboration tool. And what is a long description look like? You can always put like, hey, I think the description for this, maybe not this, maybe the long description, and there's a short description. So feel free, I'm just with the cognizance of time, I'm just really copying paste, and you can always go and add your own content here. The app ID is important. Sometimes you have it, like when you create a bot, you get that ID, paste it there. But in our case, we have to create one for ID for us, right? It's just that simple. Here you see there's a com.microsoft.teams dev app. I'm going to go and really exactly make a copy of it. And that's why I'm really going here and copying it to not make any mistake. Follow certain things like this, com.microsoft.com or something, right? And you can really put some dev app 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want, right? So I know this sounds so silly, but there's a validation going on in every step, and you cannot take yourself away because that's a mandatory one. So if I write here 1.0, right, it want to say, hey, this does not match format. Who cares? But right now it cares, that's the reason we have to really watch ourselves if you don't want to land into any error. Make sure it doesn't contain any Microsoft as a name, because Microsoft, if you put, they will validate it to a regular expression. At the same time, when you're putting these titles and all, right, I know, I think there's a reason why I'm putting so much pressure on it right now, because I end up having 3 to 4 times this error. My configurations look very clean and simple, but every time when I end up installing, it was throwing me error, and I God knows what error. But then I realized there was an error between my short name, descriptions, full name. Full name does contain did must contain at least your 10 words. So that sort of navigation, that sort of validation they have put it, right? So make sure you follow that. Right now I'm gonna go and say Microsoft 365 Inc. or something, right? This website, I'm simply go to one of my SharePoint and copy the site like this, and I go back quickly and make it MPN ID. If you are a partner like TCS, Wipro, Infosys, they are the partners to the clients, right? So what it mean, you put your market, your partner ID here. So we're really not a partner here. We are really doing a development standpoint for our own company. That's why I don't care at all. I'm going to go and put the same thing. You can always feel free to put that into something else, right? I just, again, I say, this is just for a demo purpose. I'm just keeping whatever it makes sense to me right now. So I have a specific document that I can really go and show you through. So I covered this. How do you add it? Yes. What is learning pathway? I covered that as well real quick in the presentation. The measuring impact, you can always go back to site uses and check which content of the organization the people are really interested, maybe teams, SharePoint, and you can probably take some decisions, right? Now be aware, I have already covered that considerations of it, right? Now look for the complete setup, right? So what I did exactly, let me zoom it out so that you will also see it here as well. Open the Microsoft Teams, navigate to the app, look for an app studio, install it, then you put all these descriptions like this. I'm going to go and give it a link to this document in the chat real quick, and you can access this document your convenient. And I've also a YouTube recorded for it. So I think you have enough support later. So what is next here? Once you set up this information, right, that's what exactly we have done. If you see, right, app details we have covered. All right, what next? Go to tabs under capabilities, right? Go to tabs under the capabilities, and that's when you're going to say, hey, I'm looking for a personal tab. Click on the ad, right? And then it says, hey, put a name across it. So I'm going to go and say get started or something. What is the entity ID? You see, use any random number. So I'm going to go and put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just for some purpose. And this is the most expensive and most important step which you must not miss. Again, the whole configuration seems very easy. Just the content URL you need to really look into a detail one. I'll try my best to really convince of what you can do here. So you see here, update the URL based on your tenant details. Example, for Contoso, you put a contoso.sharepoint.com, layout 15 teams login.aspx, where SPFX is true. After all, this solutions also be a SPFX true solution. That's the Microsoft vision, right? All your team solutions, the custom solutions, doesn't matter. You call it app, you call it like tabs, extensions, application customizer, whatever, it has to be on SharePoint framework. and that's the reason you put it like SPFX true, and it's on teams that we're accessing. What is that the destination look like for you? That's the detail we are putting here. Destination equals to my SharePoint site. Don't put your entire HTTP tenantname.sharepoint.com/ blah blah blah. No, just the site and the site name. If your site name has a welcome page, like site pages library, then you have one of the welcome on home page. Put exactly up to that mark, right? So I'm gonna go and copy this, for instance, right? And I go back to my details here on App Studio, and I'm gonna go and open a notepad. As I said, right, this is going to be very, very expensive. What is that configuration? So I'm gonna really make sure that everybody gets correct. So as you said, this Contoso is not my company, right? My company is Empathy Technology, for instance. I go back to the App Studio, I go over here, and I would say, hey, in the Contoso, replace it to your company name, right? I don't care about it because it's just everything is just all good. Do you remember the site name? It's called Sites M365 LP, right? I go and copy this as a destination. I go back to App Studio here and open the notepad. In the destination, what I all care to show the site which I just copied here, right? I open it, I go back, put it as a content URL. You keep it blank for a website URL, doesn't care at all. Just the content is what you really need to show. When you configure it, it's rightly available here that you can further go and edit if you get end up any errors, right? Forget about the bots, connectors, extensions, because right now we are dealing with the tabs and apps, right? Language is the one, it's by default English and US. Domains and permissions is already a domain that I have added. You might need to click on add, right, sometime, and you may go and add your own domain. So why it is taking my domain? It might be a scenario where I did some development before in the Microsoft Teams and I have given that domain. So feel free to probably hit this domain and permissions place and write add here your own domain name .sharepoint.com. And the next thing is the app AAD app ID, this is where I'm going to go back and put into my WordPad document. You see, domains and permission, you might need to explain your example like this. And when I say the SPFX is true, there would be a question. Hey Lalit, I see you are saying SPFX true and you're talking about SPFX, but where exactly it making the connection? How do you making sure the single sign-on is enabled to my solution, right? How do you really put the security, right? So what I have learned from the Microsoft 365 Pattern and Practice Organization, the PNP community, sorry, they were saying just update your app ID to this one, which is specific to your SharePoint that they created for us. And that's the reason we are saying no code solution. The title of my presentation is no code, low code. That's just do the work, right? So we really need to rely upon few settings and configurations that Microsoft is exposing to make your developers job easy. So I'm going to go and hit this app ID, and this is constant for every other SharePoint pages and content. And there you can put some of the resource specific content. I don't think so we need it right now. There's an app manifest that you can use it for further development on a Microsoft Teams, which we are not really doing it right now. And the whole information that we put over here, it's actually coming as a manifest file, right? Now test and distribute. Do you see it gives you nothing, right? No errors. I'm good to go install. I really wanted to cover those scenarios where you end up getting some error. Okay. I'm going to go and remove it and say Microsoft app, right? And I go here and say test and distribute. You see, it's also sometime taking. So why? Even though if I change to Microsoft or a short name, it is still telling, hey, your application or configurations look great, because this is kind of taking the cache memory from the system of configuration. So I tried a lot by changing a lot of full time. Once I do first time error, I tried to resolve it for 100 times, but it did not pick up. I have to really close the tab and then restart the Microsoft Teams. So feel free to restart sometime if you get some error here. And those errors, if you follow, if you set up the content URL correct, the domain name and everything correct, the only difference or only problem you end up is maybe the team name, maybe the package name. So just look for it again. We are good. We can download a zip file over here. Okay, I save the file. All right. I install it over here and it says keep a track of important content information that created by this company, personal app, everything is there. Go ahead and add it. With the moment, do you see now the get started? Boom, the get started is now be a part of your Microsoft Teams app and you can always pin it up. You see, I can take it to any place over here. So I can switch between the files or things. The get start is always here, right? As I told, right, the top navigation is not present here. So you might want to go to Microsoft 365 Learning. It's taking you over here. So what I'm really trying to explain to you guys, any content, maybe a landing page of your organization. You just need to bother about the site URL here, copy it over here, go back to your Microsoft Teams, and this application go back to App Studio. So the one that we created just now is called get started. I'm going to go and edit this to a different SharePoint, right? The configuration remain look same. Maybe the naming convention going to go and change where I'm putting the content URL right here, get started. I'm going to go and edit this to certain other URLs, right? Now this time I'm saying, hey, get me my company landing page instead the site called learning pathway. I save it. All right. I go and test and distribute it. I install it, add it. This time within a second, the whole site of a SharePoint get displayed under the SharePoint, or sorry, under the Microsoft Teams application. And if you see the blog that I follow from a Microsoft, it has the same content on the top, you see. How do you really add any corporate training landing page or any communication sort of this, right? So this is our end goal with the demo, right? That you see. I added a tab, bring up over here. That's what you see. Now I have also a bot here called my first bot. I'm going to go and type and say, hey, and you see the chat bot also working with this space. And this is where my next demo sort of look like, where I'm going to go and explain you sort of ideas, how you really can go and probably set up something like a chat bot experience within this space, right? So that's why you see here my first bot. So it's easy, right? I mean, if you go here and say hi, the same experience I replicated back to the SharePoint and a Microsoft Teams. And I'll probably give you a little demo how you can create your first bot. And it exactly gonna work the same how you create your first app within your Microsoft Teams, where you are showing any of the SharePoint content. Let's do some more, let's do more there. I I want to really go to the first bot experience here. I'm going to go and say, hey, in the SharePoint, we click on the tabs and we click on add personal tab, right? But this time, since this is bot, so I'm going to go and say bots, and this is where I'm going to go and modify my bot settings. So what you see here is most of the the best practices, or maybe the routine, or I would say a path to follow when you're looking for any content to display as an application. It could be your SharePoint content, it could be your bot experience. You can probably build that sort of sort of applications and scenarios and add it as an app in a left hand side here. If you see, I have many in this, right? That's the overall goal. So let's just go ahead in a presentation and see what next here. And before we could jump into, I never talk about the team's administrations. So if you follow this document, it's gonna say here, you might require some of the administrations can deploy and pin an application, right? So what does it mean by? So you go here, your office.com, click on admin. Teams. Do you see here called Teams app, manage app permissions, setup policies. So I'll probably take a few minutes here to explain this. Click on the manage app. These are the application that you see your org-wise supported, your company supported, and you can always modify the org-wise app settings over here and say, hey, what is that you want to support within the company, right? Allow any third party, allow any custom app, right? That's why you see here. So there might be a scenario where you get up an error. Hey, you cannot add any application to Microsoft Teams. Feel free to reach out to Microsoft Teams administrator and ask them to give you a permission. If they say no, I can't give you an access to a Microsoft Teams. Do you have a file that I can upload? Yes, I have my solution file, right? I don't know how many of you remember this step. When I go to test and distribute, there's a download option, right? That download gives you a zip file that you're good to share across with your tenant, right? I'm going to go and upload this file called select a file. And you see I have just downloaded the get started file before, right? I select it, it's right available, and it says it requires admin to approve. So there are two ways. You can always go and deploy it directly from here, like install, or you can always download it and then ask your administrator to upload it to a catalog. And then you look for this application called Get Started. You see, this is the one published by this, right? And here I'm going to go and click on it. It says status published. Everything looks cool, right? Let's go to the permission policy and see here there's a policy called global org wide default, right? And this is the org wide policy, and it says we should always say allow applications to pin, and that's the reason you see when you right click on it, pin or unpin or install, right? Pin block. So why? Because I made the setting allow me to all application to probably manage it, and I want to really pin it. I can go ahead and pin, right? These settings are the one. And the most important place, these are the very basic thing, you just need to make sure whether the application is available in the catalog or not. There are two ways. You can ask your team administrator. He can do a search here under manage app, and you can always install it if you have right access. If you none of these things work, right? Maybe you followed what I have asked you so far. There's always be a blocker which can block you if you do not follow certain things here with the app setup policy. So you choose one of them, global org wide, and you see here there is a settings called allow user pinning, right? So the next step that I was showing you here, right? Pin and allow pin, right? This is a part of here, right? Where you see here any upload custom app, yes. Allow user pinning, yes. Now you see the company intranet is available on the top, right? I want to go and delete them, and I want to really go and click on get started. And this is the one that I want to show and top it, make it on the top, right? How would you go about it to rearrange these orders? You see, I have these pinned application. I can go and click on it and delete it anytime. I can go and say move down and remove. It's got remove. I'm going to go and say, hey, the one that I just created right now, you can find in the global. I would search for get started, and you see the get started is here. Add this one, add it over here. Right now it's coming over here. You just need to move it up the way you want it. This time get started would open up our application setup that we just created, right? When you done this, wait for 5-10 minutes until we just waiting for here. Let me jump back to the Microsoft my presentation, because it's going to take some while. Let's just see if it's reflect here. Right now it says company intranet, and I'm going to go and replace it with get started. And you see, oh wow, maybe just one tenant, one application. If it has a North America's user, their licenses, and I'm an Indian, so I probably a company extended center, right? Maybe GIC or innovation center. So my data center is exactly in North America, but it takes some time to sync. Since this is my own tenant, local to India data center, that's why you see a high performing things, right? And you see get started over here, automatically adds it right now what we said, right? So here, let me go back and talk about what next in my my session. So Power Virtual Agent, I know everybody love it. The human chats, like human answerable chats, where you can really create some of the dialogue and experience and engage with the audience, right? I think the vision of a Microsoft Virtual Agent is really to make your customer and employees conversationally active and resolve some of the routine scenarios and issues, or maybe freeing up some of the focus to some technical challenges, instead just a few interactions that we can always go and handle with the chatbot. And I think chatbot, everybody knows it. I just probably keep it more high level. So it's more of, you can still democratize the AI. You can use no code solutions. It's still with the bot, and you can continuously improve it with the analytics that comes from a Power BI perspective. And you can take actions to integrate Power Platform like Power Automate and applications with this Power Virtual Agent. So as you know already, like Microsoft Power Platform is like the world-class platform for no code, low code scenarios. Here you see there's one more category called Power Virtual Agent. And what we are really going to do is we're going to make a quick bot experience in our tenant. And how you're going to go about it, I'll probably uh, put across. At the same time, how you really start quickly, maybe you have a SharePoint site or maybe a public domain site. Talk about the hp.support.com, dell.support.com. They have the FAQs page, right? How would you get their FAQs and display it in a chatbot, right? That's the sort of experience we're going to really build it. And what you see here in this place, okay, I think I'll probably cover it in a demo on our website so that it makes more sense. Let me run through the presentation fast. So what you can say, once your chatbot is built, you can take it to the custom website. You can take it to the website or Teams or Skype, any level. And then you can always make your decisions, how many escalation, how many resolutions per minute, per hour, per case, per questions, how many sessions you have completed, which is the highest asked question, how many got escalated. So these things you will get it. Let's just go and jump into the building some of the powerful conversation with chatbot. So for a time, again, for the convenience of time, you can still go back and try it out from yourself and hit Power Virtual Agent. You go for it, sign it up for 30 days trial, and probably do this for your end. Just click on sign in and you can just take it to the experience. So I leave it like this here. All right, I'll go to the Power Apps, make.powerapps.com. I hope everybody know about the Power Apps. There's a section here called Chatbot where you can create and see how many chatbot your organization has created within this environment. So here in this environment, when I click on the list, it tells me, hey, these many chatbot you have created, Lalit. Okay, you want to create one more? Yes, click on the create button and say, hey, which one you really wanted to create, a basic one? All right, let's just get started. So when you click on get started, it asks you the question, the few settings here where you say, hey, your name is Microsoft. No, I think let's call it like SPS events. I choose the language. It's available in multiple language today, and I just create it. Now, when you create this, what's happening, I'll tell you. You already have this Euro Teams created for me. The same sort of experience comes in where you can click on the home button and you can really start authoring the topics. And topics are nothing. They are just the dialogues which you can interact with your chatbot, right? So I hit the topics and you see there are two ways that you can curate the information here. Either you say like new topic, question is uh, who are you? All right, maybe I would say a bot, right? Just a testing, I would say. So who are you? Can we ask in a multiple way, right? May I know you, right? So it could be one of the scenario. What you can help, right? What is your name, right? May I know you? What's your name, right? These what you really what I'm really trying to explain you guys. The topics is something that you have to really build it, the conversation, and how you can build it. Create a new, put a name of the question, put a description about it, and tell how many ways it can be asked by the audience, and then you can say save topic. Now, when you save this topic, you might looking for an answer, right? When somebody asks you this question, what is that you want to do next? Do you want to greet them? Hey, Hey there, my name is, or maybe not my name is so sound of it. I'm I'm your human bot and help you with your questions around the events. Something, right? I save it like save. And what next here? That when somebody say hi, okay, let's say hi here. It gives some of the messages, or maybe he say I don't find it the same, and I can probably say one of the name, right? I'd say who are you, for instance. You see, hey there, I'm your human bot and help you with your questions. Somebody asked this question, what's your name? You see, the answers remain same, right? That doesn't matter, how many ways you can ask this question, but the responses remain same, right? That's what you see here. So what I've done here, you can go here to any of your website. I have a website called one here, let's say Allergen FAQs. So I have a FAQs website here. I'm going to go and take some of the FAQs from a public host website. It could be my own company, or it could be this one, right? I just click on it, copy it, close it, not close it because I have to go and show the test results as well. Just a minute. Where it is here. Come on. Oh yeah, our SPS event is just created. Let's just go and use this. Okay, what you see in the existing one are the same. If you go to thank you, people can say thanks, TY, thank you so much. So you now understand, right? Thank you is the question. These many ways people can ask. So that's what Microsoft has added some of the thank you and end of conversation, greet, goodbye. Goodbye can be asked in 67 times, right? Bye until later, bye now, bye for now, right? So you please just keep in your mind when you're building this blocks, sorry, this bots, name is something that you kind of wanted them to write accurately, but there might be some changes, challenges. They might use some shortcut, put them as a trigger phrase, and then you have an answer coming to this, right? Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and click on suggest topic, which is I'm getting the content from a website, and I click on add. You see, it hits it, it start creating, and right now, what's happening? It actually calling this page here and gets all the information over here back into the chatbot experience, right? All right, just give some few seconds here. And what you see again here, the analytics, the publish, I think these are very simple. Just go ahead and explore yourself. And this is a search bar where you can write it always. You can disable any question that you don't want, right? Since this is a little taking some time, I'll probably go and explain you the publish scenario and analytics scenario. Analytics is a report that bring it out automatically. You don't need to do anything here. It will be a Microsoft curated information in a form of Power BI. Feel free to share with your stakeholders, your leads. This is how my bot is doing in my company, right? So you might be what's the purpose, how efficient, how much your bot is efficient helping customer or helping our employees, right? This report going to tell you. So when you go to publish, hit publish button. Now when you publish this, the next thing is to manage it. So manage terms of where do you want to utilize this, right? Go to configure to channel, or you can always go and say details, channel security skills, right? Feel free to add a security. Maybe you wanted to access it anonymously without any credentials, like a public website, your blog's website, your social media's platform, right? You take it from there. You maybe wanted to authenticate from your company perspective. So use this authentication model, which one you think is best. And when you publish and go to channels, I'm going to go and say I want to use it for a Microsoft Teams, and here turn on Teams, right? Note that when you turn on the Teams, it gives you an app ID, sorry, bot ID, and that's what you really care about, bot ID. And when you have that bot ID created, right, you can always go and work on it. So at the same time, let me just to go back to the SPFS event, and you see there are suggested 12 topic. Can you probably make a thing out here, make a difference out? What is the Allegiant headquarters, right? The same information you have it now. Where is Allegiant headquarters, right? I can go and write it and say, hey, answer is Dublin. That's right. Add to my topics. From here, it goes and add it into the existing one where you see Allegiant Corporate Headquarter. I can go and click on it. I can say somebody write only headquarter, right? Right. Somebody type here company headquarter, right? So this is what really makes our bot more efficient, right? That how would you really make sure that the you are really answering the question that the people are asking in a different way, right? So right now, as I told you, right, feel free to copy this one of them and write the exact question. I think you would get the answer really. Allegiant quarter is okay. Maybe we just need to do one more time here. Just a minute. It just takes some time, but it should work. Just a minute. Let me just reset it. Oh yeah, you see now, I said you have to really turn it on, right? To enable this in your chat bot, right? So what I have done, I got all the questions from my FAQ to here in the suggested. Then I looked into each of them through. Then with this icon, right? I just make a shift from suggested to existing one. It by default turn it off. You have to turn it on. And this time when I refreshed my chat bot, I think this is where you can see and the answer would you can expect real quick. You see, did that answer your questions? No, I don't think so. So, all right, maybe I try this time with Allegiant headquarter. I know I'm technically wrong, but I just want to really show you the experience, right? Doesn't matter what you type here, as far as it actually matches one of your phrases or triggers, it always gives you the response that you have set up for it, right? Yes, it answers your questions. Sorry about it. You happy on it? Yes, I'm very excellent. I'm very happy. Can I? No, thank you. So you see how this is really helping you. Thanks for chatting with me. Bye. So everything is what you see is a phrase, message, and things like that. So simple and powerful. And this time I go and publish it. Publish. Yeah. Now I go to configure it to the channel like Microsoft Teams. I click on it and turn on Teams. It is turning the Teams on. And I think that's where you are really making some of the differences here. So follow the steps that I have shown you before adding in any SharePoint content. At the same time, you can always open up a bot experience here to just test within your Microsoft Teams. And let's see if I can open that here. All right. You see app no not exit or your organization may have disallowed you from using it. So why? Because I'm into a different Microsoft Teams meeting. So right now I joined this conference with my own personal address. At the same time, my company look like empathy technology where I'm building this platform, right?
And Lalit, we have 10 more minutes. In 5 minutes, you can wrap it up. Other five
Sure.
minutes, we can keep it for questions.
Thanks for reminding me. I'll probably finish in the next 1 minute or two. So here you see it's an empathy technology, but in my Teams, you see, I'm actually logged into a guest account, but it's so simple. Just go over here, click open bot, copy links, submit for admin approvals. Those things you can always go and do it. And you probably go and hit again the App Studio. And here you can simply know technically what's happening now. In this one, the first bot, what you see here, my first bot is same thing that I have set up first bot, this and that, everything is there. Now, don't confuse with this identity, right? You can always go and generate one. The ID that you get from a Power Virtual Agent, it is always ID that you can keep it over here, right? This is ID is different, right, than the before. So that's a wrap of my session. I hope you like it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. As I promised, I'm gonna go and give you the URL for this document and actually the video that I have recorded before. So I'm gonna go and paste them in the chat and the video that I have done on it again. Thank you guys. If you have any questions, please unmute yourself and ask me or maybe type in the chat.
Thanks,
Hi, Lalit.
Lalit. Yeah,
Uh,
please go
yeah,
ahead.
may, I have one question from the first topic that you showed for the personal tabs. So, like, we have created a app in the Microsoft Teams and in the admin center, we have just deployed to all the users in the organizations in a tenant. So, I'm just have some clarity. I just want to know that when I deploy my app in the admin center, so all the users in my organizations will need to manually add that app in their MS streams, or it will automatically goes in their tabs, and the left side they show the panel
Okay.
of the.
It's a good question. I got that question very clean, very clear. The only thing is, it's right now would come over here, like I have shown you, right? It won't come up as and added over here. Only when you do a settings in the administrations, right, where you say app setup and you go to global org wide, and we do really that, like when you exactly follow the team's admin portal setups, right, and where you say, hey, no matter what, this application need to be enabled for all my company level, right? So if you followed this settings from here, it is always available in their chat, sorry, in their Microsoft Teams experience, the first tab called get started, because the tabs which you see here, they're coming from this setup, right, as you see. So the answer is yes, you just need to ask your administrator to enable it here. It will be forever available for all employees in your company.
Okay, okay, we have just both the setting. Either we can just disable the setting, or the person need to manually add, or admin can do for all the use in the organization, right?
Absolutely. And sometime, it's a personal, right? It's not for everybody. Your personal app can be an app for your public
Right.
employees. When your administration take that as a responsibility to enable it the whole organization. Until before, it is just you can access the app in your own desktop application.
Okay, okay. Thanks a lot for my questions. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I hope you get some insight about it.
Okay. Lalit,
Okay.
the next question is in the chat, right? Can we target the tab to selected O365 groups? These
How
are
do we
the
handle questions you don't have answer configured? Yeah. So, okay, sure. So Suman Shreya has asked us, how do you handle a questions in the bot for which we do not have an answer? As I said, right? If you don't have an answer, what you're gonna do is you're gonna really run a Power Automate. Hey, get me all the responses or the chat coming up as an email to one of the concerned person, and probably build some of the Power Automate flow to handle those scenarios. There's a button that I have shown you, yes or no. Do you happy with the did you happy with the response that I submit? You say no, I did not happy. I don't find the answer is correct. What you're saying, you can always rename it. Just put some creativity there and rename the button to talk to agent. Send a query, then click on the send and query. Instead typing the message, right? I think I just need to support this answer with the setup here real quick. It's a good question. That's why reason I think there's a lot of question this type and really need to answer. I think so. So I'm going to go in topics quickly and I say who are you does not have an answer, for instance, right? So I'm going to go and say, hey, I think I don't know my name, but what I can do, I can really create an action called call an action, and where I can build here a Power Automate to configure to respond certain scenarios which my bot is not considering, right? And there you can always create a flow. And when you create this as a flow, what happened, you can really get those parameters, what a customer has provided in the chat, and it actually give you the input, and you can send the values as an output. And whatever logic you can build it over here, right? So you are receiving the input from a Power Virtual Agent over here, and you are building some of the logics like emails and triggers, approvals, whatever you wanted to do. And then you are returning the same values back into this experience, like experience from a chat, right? Here you are putting, hey there, I'm a human bot, and you say, hey, I don't know my name, but I have already initiated a process. Our concerned person will be in touch to tell my name to you, something like that, right? So just play with that.
Awesome. That helps. Thank you, Lalit.
Thank you. So how
Lalit,
do
we
we
have
handle? Yeah.
yeah, a couple of questions from Jaya Panduranga and Anand Moore. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll try to finish them very fastly here. How do we handle a question in the bot? Okay, that's clearly answered. Is bot conversion saved somewhere for reference or not yet? feel free to ping me. I'll probably to put my contact details here. Feel free to have some of the consultation with me. I'm free on Saturday, Sunday. I hope it helps. Now, what next? Can we show particular app to the specific user role? No, absolutely not. Right now, it's either a global or personal. Those settings, I think you have to go and explore cup of the Microsoft Graph API. I don't know how many times, I mean, is that something that you notice here when you go to building this application, right? App Studio, right, quickly here and choose one of your application here, and there's a settings here which calls, hey, what is that permissions look like, right? So do you want to really add some of the permissions specifically to support this consent? Feel free to play with this sort of experience. So yes, there's articles on it where you can see about resource specific consent. So let me type in the chat so that you will know to what to look for your answer. Okay, any questions more here? I think we covered.
Hi Lalit, this is Anand.
Sure.
I have a couple of questions for you. So the first one is that the the SharePoint app we added, SharePoint site basically added in the team. So can we handle the permissions in the tabs? Basically, suppose I don't want to show the particular tab for the particular set of groups or the particular persons, then can we manage it? The second question is, whenever we add the app in the MS team, the news, for suppose I'm added the news section. So whenever user click on the news sections, it will open the separate browser. The link will be open in the separate browser. So can we open in the model itself? Okay. And then third is the bot. Basically, can we handle the voice in the Teams? Because this is currently, I think it's not supported.
Okay, cool. So if your first question, let me take three questions one by one. So the question first is, how do you handle these tabs will be visible to these people and that people, maybe you have a two location like US and India. US people can see certain tabs and India people can see certain tabs, right? The key is playing with the policy. You should know how to create. You should be aware about those policies, how you can create them. Like I have first line workers, right? When you click on first line workers, do you really want that get started to be added for them? No, right? Because they are not my salaried employee. They are hourly workers. They work in production units. That's what you really care about shift chat calling activity, right? So the answer to your first question is yes, it's possible. Just play with the policies, create the one and call it, set up accordingly what you really wanted to like set up, right? For certain group of people, you don't want these to display. Feel free to put a policy.
Sorry, I'm not talking about the app. I'm talking about the tabs in the app.
Yeah, tabs in the app, right here in this one, right? Get started
Right,
when you hear.
right.
Inside this, right? Inside this, you wanted to really do some permissions, is it?
Right.
Oh no, it's handled through the SharePoint. If you have given access
No.
to
I'm not talking about the permission in the SharePoint page itself. I'm talking about the tabs. Now, suppose the get started, you have added just one tab. I suppose I added 3-4 tabs, and I want to show the certain tabs for the particular set of users. Then
exactly, that's the okay. I think you need to really think through what I'm saying. That's exactly I have set up it for my US manufacturer unit, and I know where you're coming from. I'm saying the answer to the policies, the answer to your questions can be handled through the policy from a Microsoft Teams perspective.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
Sure.
The next question is from Jaya.
I think he has one more question. Let me just quickly answer. The second question, can you remind quickly?
Model news in the model itself.
Absolutely, yeah. So right now, what you see here is this, right? I got your question. Sometime the content doesn't get opened within the same model. Instead, it actually refers to the new tab, right? This is an open source project, and just trust on this Microsoft PNP. They're gonna really fix that real soon. I got some updates. That's the same questions I have from my stakeholders. So few of the places where you might see there's a hyperlink sort of experience. There are some places where you see that the content is getting played within the experience, right? But sometimes it really depends whether you are in a web outlook or a Microsoft desktop client, right? So I think the answer to your question is, please make sure and please make a note whether the users are on desktop app or a mobile app or a web app, right? And second thing is, yes, there are scenarios where you don't see that happening within the same model inside an hyperlink. Yes, absolutely, it's fine. But this is just very new and it's not even in production. There's no solution that you can just click few buttons and add it onto it. It just actually happening through the GitHub open source, right? So whatever I have shown you in the latest. Please do follow GitHub library for a personal tab that I can probably send you in the chat.
Lalit,
Okay.
we are running out of the time. Do you want to take
Sure.
any last question?
Okay, somebody has raised a hand. Anand Mure. Anand Moore.
Lalit, I already discussed it. Sorry.
Sure. Thank you.
The last questions you forget. It's basically the voice in the Teams.
No, I
Uh,
think it's not supported yet. Look for a
okay.
Teams app
Okay.
roadmap.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Lalit. Thanks for the wonderful session.
All right. Thanks, folks, and thanks, Mithili, to probably host me here. And I just gonna share some of the information in the chat, and we are good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank you,
lovely
Lalit.
day and have a
Yeah.
weekend. Good weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.